but you may pay with your child's life later on in life.
But in the cognitive bias is runs through all this. Okay. And one of the things that we encounter every day as pediatricians is omission bias. As parents, we feel more culpable and responsible for the decisions that we make to do something to our children. We feel less culpable and responsible for the decisions we decide that we make to not do something, but they're just as meaningful. And even more so when it comes to the vast majority of the infectious diseases that we have routine vaccines for. And we have to understand that. But at the same time, would be expanding more beyond your question, we have to meet people where they are. Our job is not to be right. Our job is to try to provide the best care we can for our patients. And you can't expect parents to understand the perspectives that we have because we've been doing this for so long. They just want to make the right choice for their kid. And that can sometimes get obfuscated by personal belief and culture and all those things that are completely beyond our experience.
Yes, but my point is, especially in this moment in our history, we have to be very careful with our language because it's easy to call me out on that flu vaccine is not a very effective vaccine. It's not. And if we were honest with ourselves, we would say we're not vaccinating low risk kids with influenza anymore until you pharma come up with a vaccine that prevents 90% of the kids going into the hospital like Beyfortus does. Do a
Yeah,
better job, pharma,
it's
because you're getting a ton of money for these vaccines. Do a better job. We need a better vaccine.
entirely. It'll be wonderful when we finally get a vaccine, which is not going to be as susceptible to drift. But at the same time, almost always with every influenza season, even when the vaccine is not well matched, the purpose of vaccination, I tell my patients this, the purpose of vaccination for flu isn't strictly to keep you from getting the flu. It's to keep you from getting very sick with the flu. And when you look at the children who get hospitalized with influenza, the vast majority of those kids are unvaccinated. And so I think that there absolutely is a role and an important place for influenza vaccination for children because they have a higher risk of being very sick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can attest that this past season was a pretty good intense influenza season.
Yeah.
All the children that were really sick with high fevers, that their illness lasted 5-7 days, were always unvaccinated. Every now and again, you had a kid that received the vaccine, contracted the influenza virus. He got better in a couple of days, and his illness was far less severe.
And my experience this year with influenza was very similar, George. You get a sense when you're going through every winter, how does this winter feel, right? Okay.
Yep.
Does this feel like an easy winter or a hard winter? This was a hard winter for flu. And I recalled that it felt very similar to the swine flu outbreak of 2009, 2010. And I looked at the data, it's about where we were as far as the amount of cases. And I had so many more cases of influenza associated pneumonia this year. It was so prevalent this year. And 100%, firstly, 100% of my patients who had a harder time, higher fevers, longer illness, complications were unvaccinated kids.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, the H1N1 pandemic was much worse than this winter. I remember Sundays where we saw 80 kids just in one day in the urgent care. It was hellacious. This winter doesn't feel like that to me. It's very regional. Now, I want to ask you something. Does MMR cause autism?
No, the MMR vaccine does not cause autism. There is no single vaccine or combination of vaccines that causes autism or increases the risk for autism. It is unfortunately things on the internet never die, of course, but the allegation that the MMR vaccine or any vaccine is responsible for autism is completely been debunked. So many studies have been done looking at this, often as a result of trying to disprove a now discredited study from the 1990s. That is, I think, settled business. Despite that, because of the new Health and Human Services Secretary, we would be dipping our toes into that question again, apparently, at CDC.
So why is Andrew Wakefield and Jenny McCarthy, is their name, the blonde from California, not in jail?